cornerstones of integrative law is that we are values-based, purpose-oriented. We actually are looking at who we are as people, and the way we design our law practices. I have designed my career over a long time. I've been a lawyer since 1989, to reflect who I am and all the things I love most. And so for the last 12 years, I've been traveling around the world and I've been connecting with lawyers. I call it collecting lawyers, actually, because there are people who are doing these fabulous uh, law practices and in legal education and in the judiciary who are actually breaking new ground for what it means to be a lawyer. And so I have all the things I love to do. I have designed into my work. So I travel and I connect and I get to talk on the phone and I get to be on Zoom, and lately a lot less travel, a lot more Zoom. And so these are some of the fabulous people I've met. I'm going to let them do a quick little introduction of each of them. And Jacqueline, you are the first one on my screen. I know everybody's screen is different, but maybe you can give us a few words about who you are so people will know who they're engaging with.
Thank you, Kim. Well, I'm really excited to meet all of you and be a part of this lab. I'm sitting here just outside of New York City, in the middle of a bunch of trees, and just moved here recently. I started my law practice back in March 2019 and have been lucky to know about the integrative law movement basically throughout law school almost. My spring of my first year of law school, I started meeting Kim and getting to know more of the innovative people who showed me a lot of different ways to practice law. And so my own practice, I work with entrepreneurs and small businesses. It's been set up as a virtual practice. I'm licensed in both Nebraska and New York. And I get to help people build meaningful, sustainable organizations. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of joy and a lot more fulfilling than I thought my career was going to be. So I'll pass it over to Alex.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Devendra, and I'm in Portland, Oregon, so west coast of the United States. I've been a lawyer since 2011 and practiced in a couple different settings, including a large law firm. And it took me a while to shift course and be able to do something a little bit more in alignment with my values. So I opened my practice called Aligned Law last year, 2019. And it's a purpose-driven law firm that focuses on serving small business owners with their business law needs and also estate planning. So I'm really excited to be here for this discussion.
Hi everyone, I'm Rhiannon Thomas, and I graduated in 2001, so next year will be my 20 years since graduation, and I've done a lot in those 20 years, but my journey towards integrative law started in 2004 when I discovered the concept of the integrated health professional, and a light bulb went on, and I was like, why aren't we being taught how to be integrated legal professionals? And so for 2004 until 2012, I kind of tried to do that on my own and looked up some stuff, but I felt very alone in this approach to legal practice. And then in 2012, when we all thought the world was going to end because the Mayans calendar had come to an end, something started for me, and in that I met Kim, and I heard about the integrative law movement and realized I wasn't alone. And so in my practice, I'm qualified as a mediator and a coach. I also work as a values consultant, and I'm a certified conscious contracts provider. And the things that I focus on in my practice are conscious contracting, wills and estates, more the winding up of estates, and all the contracts around life events like marriage, buying a house, starting a business, those kind of things. So I think of my practice as a life events practice. And it goes under the collaborative work that I do. I work interdisciplinarily. I always struggle with that word, with mental health professionals to offer a more holistic service. And under that banner, we call ourselves Milkwood Law. Very nice to be here. Thank you.
I see a couple of faces that I recognize, and I wonder if those of you who are here as participants would be willing to introduce yourselves, since we're a small group.
Hi, Kim. It's
Welcome.
Anna from Brazil.
Do you want to introduce yourself to everyone? I know you. He's another conscious contracts practitioner.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I have been a lawyer for over 30 years, and for the past 10 years, I think, I have been looking to add more human elements to my practice. And the integrative law movement led by Kim, it has been recently one of those movements that includes, allows me to meet people from many parts of the world, which has always been one of my favorite things. I like to be in contact with people from different cultures and points of view. And now we can do this through Zoom. I am a lawyer. In addition being a lawyer, I am as well a mediator. And I have been trying to stimulate the collaborative law movement in my country, which is Brazil, and in Latin America as well. My last activity has been to help build a collaborative law organization in Latin America. Thank you.
The others of you would like to introduce? Alexa, conscious contracts. Would you like to tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Yeah, that was a misspell. That was a typo. Yeah, beautiful. So it was the first time I was hearing this. Also, collaborative. What was the thing, Anna, you said? Collaborative. That was also very interesting. So really
collaborative law.
Collaborative law. Yeah. So all our collaboration and things like that. I'm a technologist myself. I was an electrical engineer many years ago. I'm in Australia at the moment. I like to call myself a social entrepreneur as well. I attended a legal hackathon. I don't know if there's anyone who doesn't know what a hackathon is. Those who don't know, they freak out by the name. Yeah, hackathon is basically a cool event where people come together and make things happen. For some reason, the very first people who did that, they decided to call it a hackathon. And at that, yeah, started confusing the whole host of people. In fact, one of the t-shirt that I'm wearing now is called GovHack, which is a beautiful event. But if you don't know what that means, it feels like maybe you're hacking the government. But basically, we use open data by the government, as provided by the government, to make cool applications that helps ourselves, basically. Yes, since I attended that hackathon with Monash University in Melbourne, which is a very well-known university. I think their legal firm, they say it's very famous. I developed this interest in understanding what regulation is, and yeah, all those processes, and fascinated me as a technologist because I saw a lot of potential in yeah, just applying technology in these things. And then I learned about a movement called Rule as Code. It has different names in different places, where basically you make law in a way that it's understandable to machines at the same time, and that kind of democratizes law, basically. So yeah, that's my interest. So I'm trying to hang out around legal communities to learn and be inspired and see how I can contribute.
So are you in Melbourne?
Yes, I am in Melbourne. Yes, that's right. In a lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my top 10 places in the world. Julia, welcome back. We met Julia yesterday.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll have a go more succinctly. I'm in Manchester, in England. I'm 60. I have various degrees, including the last one, which is law and psychology, but not an LLB, not a practicing law degree, because the law people that were teaching me didn't think I'd quite become a lawyer, so they would not, due to a technicality, allow that to be an LLB, a lawyer's degree. You've heard all this stuff before. I also have master's degrees in various stuff. The good thing is I'm a teacher. I teach criminology and law when there are jobs, when we're not on lockdown, at the University of Manchester. So I have the duty and honour of teaching first years, sometimes third years, about what law is and what criminology is and how they relate to one another. And I am utterly, utterly passionate about helping them keep their sense of hope and justice and belief and the reason why they came into law in the first place intact. And so as an old person, I try to shore up their questions and get them to ask and research. And so my students ask questions. I ask, can you use phone evidence, Julia? Can they take their phone off you? And we research this together. You know, we look for laws against, for, what can they have in human rights, and they love it. So I'm a very popular teacher because I'm also a student, so I'm very kind as a teacher. I'm a constant student, so I care about how my students learn, not just what they learn, and how our groups run. And I used to be a therapist, so I run the seminars on the basis of a normal therapeutic group. So we have ground rules, boundaries, and behavioural expectations, and I model kindness, listening, reflecting back, and actually people make a great deal of progress in that environment. So that's the more coherent version after yesterday's rant.
Stephanie wants to know where it is you teach. What's the name of the university?
University of Manchester, where John Haskell is. We're in the same. Oh yeah. Well, Manchester's Manchester's a super city, like Melbourne, like a lot of cities. It's got its own spirit, which what did the Chili's say? The city, she loves me. Yeah. She loves me. My city, she protects me and keeps me safe. So I say I'm European, but I live in Manchester because I'm a Remainer as well. So that's how we end up with that. But yeah.
I'm glad you're here. Leslie Ann, are there any people that we can't see that we need to introduce? Well, welcome everyone. What we're going to be working on today is we're going to be actually working on our values and sharing how we have Alexa, Jack, are you looking at Jacqueline, or I see you have two screens here. Are they both you, or is there someone else on the other screen?
No, well, the two aspects of me, well, they're different. Like this is microphone, and that's you basically.
Got it. Okay.
And
okay.
that's the camera.
Just making sure. Okay. So, so we're going to be talking about values, which is one of the cornerstones of the integrative law movement. And so I'm going to go through a little bit. We're probably not going to break out into groups. This was I need to have screen sharing, Leslie. Are you there, Leslie? I am.
I think you do the screen share and she can do the groups. I think that's how I understood it.
Turned off.
Ah. Manchester's a lovely city. The only problem is it rains a lot. It's called sunny Manchester. I
Well,
lived
I
there for a year.
can't say anything because it's raining now. And it will rain for the next 4 months. So, you know, yeah.
I might have to do this without the slides, which I can do, but I'm gonna message her to see if she's
Apologies, sorry, I got a call.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay, let me know when it's there.
You should have the capability now. Okay, sorry about that.
All right, so we're going to talk about values, and I went and asked some other people what they thought about values and came up with this. The Dalai Lama, open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. Stephen Covey, who tells us all how to be effective. Peace of mind comes when your life is in harmony with true principles and values and in no other way. Walt Disney, it's not hard to make decisions when you know what your values are. And then Elvis Presley, of all people, values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do. And one of my values is actually inclusivity. So I had to go and find women, because when I looked up values and quotes on values, like the first 100 were about from men. So then I decided I would specifically look for women. And Nicki Minaj says, you have to know that as long as you love who you are, your morals, your values, that type of stuff, you're okay. Oprah Winfrey, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe. And then Brene Brown, who I really love, a value is a way of being or believing that we hold most important. Living into our values means that we do more than profess our values, we practice them. We walk our talk. We are clear about what we believe and hold important, and we take care that our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs. So, why do values matter? I like to think of values as a compass. Like when you have a decision to make, if you know what your values are, you know who you are, it will tell you what direction to go. It's like the Walt Disney quote, if you actually make your decisions according to your values, then you're going to keep going in the way of integrity. And then when times are really, like when you're in a tornado full of sharks, it gives you a place to center yourself. It actually brings you back to, this is who I am, and I'm going to make decisions based on my values so that no matter what the circumstances are, I'm living true to myself. So these are mine. I have to move the screen around a little bit. So you'll learn a lot about me here. My purpose is to honor the interconnected, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm trying to move things around. Honoring the interconnectedness of all beings and catalyzing positive connections. You already heard a little bit about that. And my mission is to find, connect, support, and showcase those who are working toward manifesting my vision of the legal system. And so I see myself as a catalyst of a new system. My values are, hold on a second, I'm having to move, belonging, like courage, integrity, which is, there are a lot of different versions of integrity. And for me, it's about alignment with your purpose and values. Freedom balanced with responsibility, because I don't think you can have true freedom without also having responsibility. And compassion and commitment. And I don't know whether, I think I will actually read my vision. It looks really long, but it takes a minute. That'll give you an idea of what I'm up to in the world. So I created this for 25 years from now, 2045. The seeds of the late 1990s and early 2000s have flourished. We are grateful to our pioneers and trailblazers who held this vision and brought it to fruition. Lawyers are now recognized for the true purpose: peacemaking, problem solving, and healing wounds of the community. Trials are rare and civil. Collaboration, prevention, and transformation are the lawyer's stock and trade. We create sustainable agreements and resolutions. Lawmakers serve, conscious of all stakeholders and of our interconnectedness with nature and each other. They work on common goals and values to benefit everyone. Law enforcement focuses on right relationships, working in partnership with the community to foster strong, empowered, and safe communities. Judges are wise leaders who help to balance competing values, hold everyone accountable, and deliver fair results with love, compassion, and empathy. Prisons are a part of our past. Now we focus on rehabilitation, healing, and reconnection for all members of society. Criminal behavior is seen as a symptom of brokenness that needs to be healed. Law students still learn the focused analytical thinking that is known as thinking like a lawyer. Now they're also trained in holistic thinking. Art is part of a balanced core curriculum. Our history of restorative practices and nonviolent communication in schools has helped to produce citizens who tell their truths, take responsibility, and accept accountability. The legal system works for everyone. There are no more lawyer jokes. They're not funny anymore. So, part of what we're doing today is we're going to begin your statement about this. So I can't see chat. I see there are chats. Can one of you tell me what's in the chat? When I'm full screen, I can't actually read this chat.
That was me saying I love hearing it and I get something new out of it every time I hear it. And Rhiannon shared that this is her first time hearing it and she loves it.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to respond to my.
Kim, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say that it's the first time I'm facing your personal values. And that's why I like to be with you, because it's practically the same values. They are the same values I have. It's not a coincidence. Thank you.
Not a coincidence at all. Well, and in fact, if you don't know your values, one of the ways to find your values is to look around you and who you're hanging out with that you like to hang out with, because those are people who probably share your values. So
these values, again, it's a bit like what was said before, of things that are an integral part of me. And when I'm a teacher, when I'm teaching my groups, and I say to them, we don't need prisons, you know. I should know, I've worked in them. I've worked in mental health forensic units. 99% of the people who are in those units don't need to be there. Some of them need to be cared for in places that are safe. Everybody else needs to get let out. They think that's outrageous, but that is the facts, that's the reality. And not only that, that working in those places hurts the workers as much as it hurts the contained, the prisoners, the patients. And after 10 weeks of looking at what prisons do and how they work and what the alternatives are, we make progress, you know. So each of us, I guess, is chipping away, exactly, is chipping away at an edge of this, like making, instead of, when you're a criminologist, you think you're going to work as a prison officer. I got a job in a a high secure hospital. And the boss said to me, "This is a temporary job, Julia, except that we're here to close this place down. We're leaving and they're leaving." And we did. That's what we did. Yeah, it was the women's service of a hospital called Ashworth.
That's
And we
good.
closed it down.
I also find it interesting how, with the pandemic in this new normal that we're negotiating, how some people were released from prison. So this concept of prison is, and who goes to prison and who stays there depending on the circumstances, is a very, very nebulous concept. And again, when in the history of South Africa, where people were released because they were held for political crimes, and so there's, it is a really, really interesting thing. And do we really need prisons? I agree with you. And with Alex about, it's a very strange concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a
Yeah,
bit outdated
absolutely.
for the new normal.
Well, in the new normal, everyone has a statement like this, and then we just swap our statements and say, oh, I really like this. I'm going to work on this with you.
I'm just hoping that 2045 is like it happens in 2035.
So when I first created my project, which I called Transforming the Legal System, it was in 2000. And I said that the legal system would be transformed by 2012, and that we would all be recognizing our interconnectedness by 2020. So I have failed in a big way. I have failed in a huge way. And so I'm no longer like saying it's going to be 10 years from now, but I will say that the progress we've made is a whole lot more than would have happened if I had not started doing this work. The connecting of people that actually, I always say that community gives us courage. And so Rhiannon talked about not feeling alone anymore. Well, that actually is part of what I think has allowed this movement to start to be as large as it is. And most people haven't heard of it yet, but there's, we have hundreds of leaders and thousands of people who are doing something in this movement, most of whom don't know anything about that the movement exists. They're just sort of in this place of the consciousness is shifting. So you saw that I had a purpose, vision, mission, and values. And all of those, they fit together to be who you are. We're going to focus on the values piece today, because I think that really is the place that it starts. If you know what your values are, then the rest starts to come into focus. So we're gonna actually explore that. What are your values? So first question I have is, what do you love? And we were going to do breakout groups, but we're going to just let me go through the questions first, and then we'll work together. What do you love? What breaks your heart? Like if you're looking at, I mean, for me, it's like even watching movies or something in the news. There's certain things that just break my heart. That helps me to see what are my values. What do you rant about? The other day, there was the stupidest thing on Facebook. This stupidest comment, and I couldn't. I was possessed by it. I had to respond, and not to do that. But there are some things that you just can't allow to continue. And so I commented. I was smart enough to, after about 6 hours, I went back and took it off, and so the whole thread disappeared. And then I blocked the people who'd said horrible, nasty things in the thread. But that what you rant about tells you a lot about yourself. So here's the exercise. Like, what do you love? what breaks your heart, and what do you rant about? So I'd like to hear. What can you not step over?
I can share one. For me, I think it's most helpful to come at it from the ranting angle, because I was going to say, like, when I've done values exercises, like when I was starting my firm and things like that, and when you try to like just answer the question straight on, what are your values, like what do you love, I feel like I draw a blank. But if you kind of come at it obliquely, it's easier somehow. So that was actually how I discovered one of the values that I'd left off my list originally. I was helping another attorney, and so I was seeing how her internal firm processes worked. And I just thought she was like way overcomplicating things, and it was just more complex than it needed to be. And I was kind of complaining to my husband that I didn't like how she did things. And I realized that my value is simplicity.
Yeah.
Somebody else?
Yeah, I'll follow on from that, because that's something I really hate as well, is overcomplicating things. So, and it's interesting because I've chosen the value of clarity rather than simplicity. And so, because so for me, it's more about making things understandable, even if they're complex. So it's a slightly different approach, but I'm busy trying to. I've taken over a matter for somebody which is all around. In South Africa we have, and in Scotland, I don't know if they have them in the UK, but and the US, but servitudes, which are these rights of way over other people's land. And this, it's all becoming very complicated because someone who has a servitude wants a servitude over that servitude, and it's just a moment we like, actually everyone needs to stop being so greedy and so selfish and so wanting everything for themselves, and just respect other people's rights. And it's interesting for me, it came up as this thing about like, by it's sort of obfuscation, I think is the word. And I felt that's what lawyers do a lot. And so one of my values is clarity. Something I really love knowing exactly where I stand in something. So it's kind of what I hate and what I love. And I think that's why that what do you love and what do you rant about? It's such a great comparison to look at those two things. And something that breaks my heart is things to do with children. So child trafficking, children being, put in pens and things at the border. I know that's something that breaks Kim's heart because she got very involved with that not long ago. And so the treatment of children is something that really makes me very upset. And yeah, brings tears to my eyes when I see some of those things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll jump in here, Rhiannon, with your description of how you got to clarity as a value. I find sort of similar on my path towards realizing how much I value authenticity, or how it first came to me was like genuineness, because that was one of the things that what I rant about, or what breaks my heart often, is when people aren't saying what they mean or what they're really feeling. Causes me a lot of frustration, or when they're not able to be their full selves. And so they're acting from a place where they're sort of hidden behind multiple walls of defenses or reasons that aren't clear. And similarly with that, those two questions, what breaks your heart and what do you rant about, were very similar to me, because it does cause me a lot of distress when I experience that, and in my own feeling of not being able to be authentic or not being seen for my authentic self. And so that one value kind of came from looking at both of those questions.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think I love people. I love my family and friends. I love people in general. And I think because of that, one of the things that breaks my heart is injustice and manipulation, which generates injustice. My speech, or the way I express myself in general, has to do with the sense of humor. I like to express good things instead of bad things. I used to say to my daughters that if you don't have a good word to say, please be quiet. It's it's something we can share here in my house. Thank you.
I just wanted to share, yeah, because I was thinking as you said that, I've said it on the chat, but I tend to talk about very serious things with people in my practice. We talk about death and what will happen after they die. And there's something really lovely to be able to bring a bit of lightness and humor to that. And so I also love that. I love having humor in my life and not taking things too seriously, because life is short. You may as well have fun.
Julia, are you starting to see any value that you might have?
It's me, yeah. Well, I'm a bit sad to admit this, really, but what I love and what I loved was work. I loved my work, and my loss of work is one of the biggest griefs of my life. I've worked in many different things. I've worked in housing and homelessness, which goes on to the next thing. I've worked in community mental health as a counsellor and therapist. I've worked in lesbian, gay and bisexual project as a lesbian counsellor. I've worked in forensic mental health, and I've worked as a teacher, similar a seminar taker in a university. And I love work and I miss work deeply. It's not the identity or the money that matters. It's that, like we were just talking about, that contact with people and that feeling that something's changing. They're doing something important and being alongside them in those jobs. So I love my work. I have only done jobs that I love, and I've loved them. I got chronic fatigue syndrome in 2008 and had to stop work. Yeah, but not just being useful, Alexander, not just being useful, but actually having done something small to change things. And then what breaks my heart is homelessness, and I can't bear to see the people on the street here in Manchester. I worked in a hostel and in housing for a long time, and it's an unnecessary pain. And it's, no civilized society should have any people on the street ever. They should be cared for and adopted and assisted and encouraged. And my rant, back to another point, is injustice, and it can be anything from differential charges through to terrible law. But I just, any inequality, any injustice will have me on the rant thing very quickly. The big one for me is that I was due to get a pension when I was 60, and a law change in 2011 removed it at a stroke of a pen. So women over 60 don't get any money. So I haven't had an income I haven't had any proper income for many years. yeah. Anyway, so that's how things are.
I switched to the next slide because it's a list of values, and as you were talking, I heard maybe making a difference or contribution, and then I also heard justice, and not all values are here, as you can see. It's just and I think economic security, but not in the net worth area, but that homelessness piece, you know, like that everyone, and in the story about your pension, that everyone should have a right to economic security.
Yeah.
I don't know, does that ring?
Yeah, and but also I started working, looking after my family at around about 13. Yeah, compassion is really important. And then now at 60, I haven't got a job. I haven't had any work for a year. It's been a year since I was last working. I've got an interview on Monday for a teaching job. So yeah, compassion, but
Julia, there's also something I saw or noticed coming up is trustworthiness, in the sense of, trusting society in a way, like of being held, of we put this in, like how there's sort of broken trust when people are homeless.
yeah,
Broken trust when your pension was taken away. So that's something.
And Delia, in the last session, Delia was talking about Black people in America just dying of COVID, and again, just that government does not care whether those people or my people or any of us die. They don't. We don't matter enough to protect, essentially, and that feels very difficult, very difficult. And of course, I do the opposite. So for me, everybody is completely irreplaceable and unique and worth caring about and protecting. And oh yeah, I don't need that.
That shows up for me. Belonging is how I express that. That's the value of, like, that everyone belongs, everyone matters.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of has a right to be here, and to be loved and to be cared for. All of that sort of gets collapsed into the word belonging for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, each, you see, even on this list, some like, if you look at the word integrity, it can be honesty, veracity, and morality, but it also can be wholeness. There are a lot of different meanings, and one of the things that I do when I'm teaching a full values workshop is that we actually tell why we chose those words and tell stories about them, because there may be many facets to the word that aren't captured in just the one word.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much for sharing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa, is fun one of yours?
Oh yeah, thanks for asking. Well, yeah, that's a practical answer. I realized. For me, it's complicated to talk about it, and I was also a lot of collaboration. I always observed what eventually, like the teams that actually put it together in the longer run and managed to get things done, I found they all had one thing in common. They were enjoying what they were doing, and I thought maybe like fun is something that I can focus on, because the rest would come together naturally, whatever they are. That's why I picked fun. they're all important, but I couldn't find any mechanism to, because people can't express necessarily themselves, or sometimes we don't know, it just, yeah, having fun is something that I think it allows the same values over time to find each other. Yeah, okay. It's a practical value in a way.
I also heard maybe some self-expression in there. So we're not going to do breakout groups because we're a small group, but maybe we can each tell a little story. And I think Julia has started this for us about why, like maybe you want to look and pick one you haven't talked about, or, we could double this list. Rhiannon has this wonderful set of cards that she's created with these beautiful pictures and just one word on each one. And so when we're in person, sometimes we pass out the cards and you tell why you chose the picture. But I think she has 90 cards. There are about 100 listed here, and all I see are the ones who aren't there. You know what I'm talking? Like a lot of the ones I've spoken about are not on the list. So pick one, and then let's each tell just a story of 2 or 3 minutes of why you have chosen that particular value. And I'll even do that.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the exercise?
One of the values that we haven't talked about, that, because we all have several values. Pick one we haven't talked about yet. And then let's tell a story of just 1 or 2 minutes about why you picked that one. And we've added a couple of people, and welcome. We're talking about values here, and in particular, we're looking at values as one of the cornerstones of the integrative law movement. And so we're right now we've talked about how values shape us and shape our decision making, and then we're looking at what our values are. So we've done some work up until this point, and now we're going to just pick one of these values and tell a story about why we think that's an important value.
I'm happy to start, Kim, if you want.
Sure, go ahead.
This is a new one to me that I haven't realized, and I'm thankful for Julia's share, because all of a sudden, after we were talking about trustworthiness, it like pieced together a number of experiences I had, and I realized that that's a very important value to me. I realized that there's many situations in my life where it causes me a lot of distress or anxiety when I realize there's like a moment where somebody has committed or said they're going to do something and then doesn't follow through on that. And that makes me feel very unsafe. And so, whether it's with a new landlord and having repairs where they say, we're going to get it done, and then it's not done, I realize that a lot of that is, to me, where's that anxiety coming from? It's coming from the trustworthiness aspect, not so much from whether or not it's done, but this feeling of, I can't rely on you. I don't know where the next foothold's going to be. And in my work as well, when I'm collaborating with other people, to have that sense of grounding where I know people are going to show up, or they're going to do the assignment or follow through in those things, to have that basis of trustworthiness is really, really important to me. And I think I used to see trustworthiness and loyalty somehow intertwined or connected. And loyalty didn't feel like the right thing for me as a main value. And now I see trustworthiness as separate. It's sort of that following through on your own word, whether or not you're loyal to me. You may choose not to do something or not to align with my interests, but as long as I can trust what you're saying or what you're going to do what you say you're going to do, then that's really important to me.
Yeah. And there's reasons for that, which a feminist called Adrienne Rich talk about, and that is that your sense of reality is built on truth, on people being truthful, and when they don't tell the truth, it makes us feel crazy. And you know, we owe it to one another to not add to that feeling of uncertainty and craziness.
Can you put it in the chat, Julia?
What's that? Adrienne Rich. Yeah, I'll try and write it.
So a value that I've had to embrace in the last year, which is something that is hasn't been a core value, but I think is becoming a core value, is acceptance. And it's not on the list. But I was looking and I thought maybe I could speak about courage, because I've also had to have a lot of courage this year. And then I thought, actually, it's not so much courage. More about accepting things. And in January, I relocated back to Cape Town, which is my home, on the understanding that my husband, with my children, on the understanding that we would see my husband every few months, and we'd come to the UK in August and have a lovely summer. And none of that happened. And so many things were taken away from us in South Africa, most notably our alcohol and our cigarettes, which was very, very distressing. But we also had curfews put in place, and it became a really controlling environment. But there was very little that I could do about that. And so I decided maybe it's time for me to just embrace acceptance, and that every day I just see what happens tomorrow and accept that without, so that I don't spend a lot of time worrying and agonizing over things I can't control. And so that value has really showed up for me recently. And alongside it, openness. So just openness to what is going to happen next, and to be ready and open to whatever comes along. It's really stood me in good stead, and I'm happy to report that I'm reunited with my as a family, the four of us together, my two children and myself and my husband in Oxfordshire at the moment. So, but it's been a lesson. So I think it might be one of my new values.
Actually, your values can shift with your circumstances and your environment, and shift at different points. Like very, very few people of 20 say that health is a major value, but most people of 70 will have health as a value. So that's a great one. Well, I was inspired by Alexar talking about fun, and remembering there's an engineering company in Australia called Aurecon, Aurecon, and they have created a contract, an employment contract that is a cartoon, a comic book contract is what they call it. Oh, and Alexa, your friend, works for them. They have as a value fun with serious intent, or play with serious intent, I think it may be. And I really love that because a lot of what I do is very serious. We are playful with serious intensity is the one, but I'm working to change a system, but I also have designed my life so that everything I do is fun, And so I've spent a lot of time, just really enjoying myself, but the intent in the background is very serious. So, so that's mine. I don't think I have it on my list. I'll have to go and change that.
Kim,
I can share. I had a story.
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just a short story. In terms of values, I think I searched for much of during my life. I searched information about my origin. My grandfather came from Basque country, and we had nothing in Brazil written in Portuguese about the Basques. And my own father had this fantasy related to his own origin and the origin of his paternal grandfather. In many moments of my life, I did not feel that I belonged to my own community. And it was weird. It was something really terrible. Only when I was able to reconnect my family with their origin in the Basque country, I did really understand uh, that feeling of belonging was the values of the Basque society and the vast majority of its community coincide with my values, those values that I have always carried internally and that I have tried to practice during my life, and that have sometimes not always coincident with the same values of the community where I was born and where I always lived. And when I was able to connect the family, I finally was able to experience the real feeling of integrity because of this belonging feeling. And this is a very important value for me. Thank you.
So there's also just to comment on that, values are, there's so much we don't know about the human condition and what we carry in our stories and from our our ascendants, our
Ancestors.
ancestors. Thank you. Lost that word.
Yes, this is
And that it's interesting because I think values can transcend can pass through generations. And so that's one, there's a lovely quote. I can't think who it's by, but it's about you can only know yourself if you know where you came from, if you know the history of your ancestors. And I think there are things that and I think humor is one of them, because I think that is something that you're kind of born with as well, but it's also something you develop, and maybe it's a value that transcends through the generations to our ancestors. Yeah, it's a lovely story. I love that story. Thank you.
Thank you. And I actually I wrote a book about it, which called Basque Soul. And it was the first book written in Portuguese about Basques, because the literature until then was written in Spanish or French. I bought some books in Uruguay or Argentina, but in Portuguese, my book was the first one talking exclusively about Basques. And it was a great thing. I like it. It's my third child, the book.
Well, and Anna knows that I've done a lot of work in Basque country, and so we share the love of the Basque as well.
Wondering if we should tell Julia at some stage about the work in Basque country around homelessness, because I think it would really appeal to her. So I'm getting involved with that project as well,
Right.
with Maria there, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to hear. That's good.
Give some details of this.
Julia, if you'll send me your contact information, I would love I would love to connect you. And Rhiannon is also involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else with a story? Alex, you were going to talk?
Sure. I had a story picked out, and then I've like thought of two other things. So I'm going to see if I can weave them all together in a way that makes sense. My first story was about forgiveness being a value, and kind of like how that can show up for better or worse in your jobs. Because one of my first jobs after law school was at this large law firm, and I was miserable and I hated it. And then all of a sudden this opportunity came up to do a 2-month internship with the prosecutor's office. And I was just so eager to get out of the firm that I volunteered. I was like, yes, send me anywhere. I'll go anywhere. And so I went and worked at the prosecutor's office, only to discover that I'm a terrible prosecutor because I have this value of forgiveness and I just couldn't bring it. I had absolutely no desire to prosecute any of my cases. And I was doing this trial, and I gave probably a very terrible closing argument. And then the defense attorney got up and started talking about the burden of proof. And I thought she was really kind of like overstating it, and that was the only time I got fired up enough to, when I gave my rebuttal, I was able to like push back a little bit. And Rhiannon, that made me think of your value of, or you not enjoying obfuscation. And so that was like I was like, come on, I don't want to put this guy away either, but you don't have to overstate the burden of proof. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention was, I think, Rhiannon, you said you were maybe going to talk about courage. And I just wanted to share, I think it's interesting how the different values can interrelate. And I was in a different coaching program the other day, and they asked us what we were hoping to get out of the coaching program. And I said I wanted confidence. And it's about building your law practice and that kind of thing. And the coach said, oh, well, confidence is actually just a byproduct of courage. If you have courage, then the confidence kind of naturally comes. So I thought, I saw both of those words on the list. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. We've had somebody new. I want to invite Saswati, and I apologize if I'm saying the name incorrectly, to share, so that we can include you in the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. Wright, Kim Wright?
Yes.
Great. You pronounced my name bang on correct. That's the way to pronounce it, actually. Need to share my thoughts on this. I think it's a very novel approach to discuss values, especially when we are talking about legal education. And so the way we are taught law is, there are two things. One is either you take, art subjects wherein you learn about political science, wherein you learn about history. The other approach is where you become a hardcore M&A lawyer, where you get to learn accountings, you get to learn basic, you deal with numbers, but with limitation that you are still a lawyer. You don't transgress that and become something else. So this is very unique, and later, like once we graduate, our learnings to our subject we choose formulates us, or it kind of shapes us as who we are as lawyers. I think in my, I'm still learning, and there are a lot of skills or values that I would like to imbibe in me, especially because of COVID-19, since the entire practice has shifted to work from home scenario. It gets really tough having that kind of authenticity in human relation, because there are a lot of things to balance in our lives. It's not just professional, it's personal as well. Then there is your hobbies. Then there are 10 other things which come up which you do not expect. And so I'm going into the behind why we are doing this exercise, which is absolutely not important. I think I was really thrilled to look at the different sets of values that I can imbibe, and I think I do not anything any personal favorite as such, but I think personal growth and development is the overall um, what do you say, value that I would like to work on, um, and maybe perseverance, because the way we understand law or legal profession is, most of the time what happens is we have friends who know us, we are lawyers, fine. I was just thinking about it today, so I thought of like sharing it with all of you. So, in every group, there is one person who's a lawyer. I mean, imagining this is the hypothesis. So any other friend they call up and they say, okay, fine, I think we have this issue, and can you please give us your advice? Now, at that point of time, you want to really preserve your relationship, and you want to say, okay, fine, sure. You will not go and say that, okay, fine, let's do a contract in place and then we'll talk. Because then that person will be like, what are you saying? Just because you've become a lawyer, you've forgotten that, your friends matter to you and now it's all about money. I think that's, I think that's something which is, I'm not too sure about what value uh, you can talk about, or what is the name of that particular value, and the choice may be conflict. No. So I think the value which helps you make that decision at that point in time is something that I would like to imbibe. And I can still, if I can still ask my friend to pay me money, or nothing, I've come at least like you said. It's also part of the value system that we grow up in during our education time. So in India, it's like 5 years we do law, and it's also, so all my friends they have they're in a very different setup. And so when lawyers meet lawyers, we do not talk about ethics. Ethics is it's not there, because we talk about money. We talk about we don't think twice for talking about what's happening where. So confidential information be a very important principle, especially in a profession. We don't follow it. So, like I said, there is not one value, but there are a lot of values. But the overall umbrella would be personal growth and development and perseverance. I'm so sorry for taking this much time, but yeah.
So Swati, I want to add,
that's pretty much it from my side.
It's good. You're good. Yeah, that's okay.
I heard I want to add maybe something about fair share. It sounds like that might be a value.
Yeah, one of the things we've been talking about is that we actually have values that are already running us. And then you're pointing to also there are aspirational values that we may want to take on. And and it's really valuable to have sort of the compass of what they of a combination of those, that the ones that are who we are, and the ones that are who we want to be. So,
right. Yeah.
So yeah, I want to come back to you because we haven't heard from you about another value to pick, and maybe a story that relates to that.
Well, I was listening to Siswati talking, and I was feeling a bit bad because, okay, I study Arabic. I've been studying Arabic for about 4 years, and my teacher, it's a community class where I started, and a couple of weeks back, my teacher texted me after the class, the Zoom class, and she said, "Can you help me with some law? Because they know that I do law." So I said, "Yeah, okay, yeah." But I said, I can't, I'm not allowed to give legal advice because I'm not, I'm not certified to do that, if you'll forgive the joke. But I can have a look at it and tell you what needs sorting and where to get information. So she told me the case, and I did a load of research, and I sent back all the things that you should send back, like where she can get better legal advice and the rules about legal aid, and precede a lot of the stuff. And the thing is, when I haven't had money, she's never asked me to pay for my language classes. She said to me, "If you don't have any money, it's okay. And I pay when I have money, and I pay as much as I can when I can, and I keep paying when I have any, or, whatever I can do." And I wouldn't have dreamed of charging her for that or that check-in. So I gave the advice, which is how to do what they want to do safely and legally, but it wasn't the case. I wasn't taking on the case. It was how to get the right outcomes in law and how to get legal information. And I think the value that I was talking about was sort of like, just like again, not just fair share, but just like, yeah, okay, I've got this skill. I know how to research law. I know how to find law. I know how to find cases. I know how to find anything I want to find. And I just, so that was what struck me, that I didn't want to make money. I wanted to get some information to the people who actually were in an awful lot of trouble, a really, really bad charge against them. No idea how bad it was, and they needed better information than what they were getting off their legal aid. So I did it, and it never. So what is that? I don't know. I don't know what that value is.
I heard. So first of all, in everything you've said, I've heard learning.
Yeah.
Like that you're really committed to learning.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I wonder. Yeah, caring. Jacqueline is putting up there, and generosity.
I hope so. Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
I-
reciprocity. Right. Yeah, like
But it's a bit like, so generosity is one of my core values, but I do share a lot of information with people, and I believe that it may not come back to me directly from them, but it will come back to me somehow. And I must that for a long time I felt like things weren't coming back to me, but I continued to be generous. And this year I have been so blessed with so many things that it's been coming back to me in massive waves. And I think that generosity, I think it's about a mindset, which is maybe values based, which is that there's enough. So I like to live my life thinking that there's enough for everyone. There's enough for me and there's enough for you.
yeah.
But law school doesn't teach us that. Law school teaches us that we need to protect what we have.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just telling my family off for talking in the background. But you know that one of the things that law school teaches us is that we have to put a value on things, and we have to look. You know, we have our clients, and we don't share them, and you don't share notes, and it's all about being better than the others. And I think that's an unlearning in a way that has to happen. And yes, it is abundance. It's about abundance is enough. There is enough, and if you can embrace that value, it might not come back to you next week, and it might not come back to you next year. But I can say that I've been extremely blessed recently when I really needed something. And I feel, yeah, so maybe sharing as well, I don't know. But I think reciprocity, but in a sort of more universal kind of energy, hey, wow, out there kind of way.
We're going to run out of time shortly, and I love the conversation, and I want to give Jacqueline, Alex, and Rhiannon an opportunity to share how they've taken their values and have designed their law practices. And the time has gone much faster than I expected, so you'll have about 3 minutes or so each to do that, and then we'll come to a close for this lab. Which one of you would like to go first?
I can go.
Okay.
All right, I'm setting my timer for 3 minutes.
Good. You can do that for all of us.
So my practice, when I started, I was practicing litigation and then decided to launch my own firm because I saw how much injustice was happening in the courts, that they weren't really effective to create solutions for people and creative solutions. And so I shifted over towards part of my entrepreneurial past of working with businesses. And it was very important to me to help people create long-lasting, sustainable solutions. And that idea of, if you're going to do some kind of work, you're going to do something that actually helps in the long term and actually deeply heals or deeply transforms the situation, rather than just putting a Band-Aid on it or just complying with what a client wants immediately. So the way I put that into practice in my firm is that I developed a intake system that's quite in depth. So instead of an intake usually just being like name, contact, what's your legal issue, maybe a couple other questions, mine is a filtering system for me to find clients who are aligned with what I'm trying to do and who are ready to do the kind of work that I want to do, because it's more in depth. I don't like to just, if somebody says, could you set up an LLC for me? I don't really like to just fill out the form and say, here you go. I like to do a more in-depth process. And so this goes through and asks them about their values, about their work experiences in life, about why they're choosing to start this company, about what they'd want to do if they didn't have to work at all, if they only had a year left to live. That's one of the questions on my worksheet. And these kinds of things I find help my clients or my potential clients to sort of start self-reflecting. And then it helps me to see whether they're aligned with what I'm trying to do and create. And then the other aspect I use in my law firm is developing collaborative teams. And so I'm starting to bring in more practitioners, non-lawyers, and other lawyers, not just to refer out to clients, here's the trademark lawyer, go talk to them, but a way for all of us to talk to the client at once and work together in a more strategic way, and to bring in some more of that holistic, humane process of counseling and advising and getting to the root of the issue, because it's often an emotional issue somewhere in the background of whatever the legal issue is. So those are two of the things I do, and I'm out of time.
I want to mention too that you have a sliding scale.
Oh no, I like that. Humane and advising. Right.
Sliding scale for all my clients, and it's based on area median income. So it's based on their locality. So whether I'm consulting or working in one of the states I practice, I use that.
Rhiannon or Alex, who's next?
I can go. So how I have developed my practice so that it fits better with me and my values is, one of the things that I always struggled with was telling people that I was a lawyer, because of all the perceptions about lawyers and the people that they are. And I didn't want to be put in a box. So I decided that I wanted to change people's impressions of lawyers. So when I engage with people, I want them to have a really positive experience. I want them to feel heard. I want them to feel valuable, and I want them to understand exactly what's going on. So I'm quite focused on making law work for the people that are using it. And conscious contracting is a way of doing that. So it's creating contracts for people that they really understand, that they've co-created, and that reflects who they are. And I see my client as the expert and me as the person who has a lot of knowledge that I can bring, but the client is the expert in what they need and what their relationship is. And I'm just there to be a translator between speaking law and speaking human. And the other thing that I have done in my practice to more reflect what I think is so important, which is the EQ and the spiritual sort of aspect of law. So the other stuff besides the IQ is to work collaboratively with professionals who are mental health professionals of varying sorts, who can actually create a safe container and a safe space in which we can have difficult conversations if we need to. And I use values in everything that I do. In my practice, it's the starting point for everything. I get my clients to do a values assessment, and I start all conversations with values, and I share my values with them as well, so that very quickly we know whether we're going to work well together or not. And it's a good filtering process as well. That's me.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Alex.
Sure, I'll just share two quick tidbits. I guess first, when I started my firm last year, I knew I wanted it to be values-based and purpose-driven. And so I worked with a consultant on, doing the website, choosing the name and the branding and the logo and everything. And that, I think I was a little naive about how quickly that process would go. I guess I thought that because I was already kind of knew my values, or knew that generally what I wanted to do, that part would go quickly. And it actually took quite a bit longer than I thought it would to really articulate what I was trying to do, and then figure out what the right way to communicate that visually and through the name would be. So I guess that's just a plug for, it's not always easy to do things this way. But I'm glad I was patient, or found the patience to stick with it. And then the other thing I'll just share is that I liked how Jacqueline was talking about kind of the screening process and finding the right clients to work with. And I'll just add that I've found that it's also important, even, once you start working with a client, and even when the alignment is there, we kind of always have to be explicitly reminding ourselves of what our values are and how we're different than traditional lawyers, because I found that it's not just enough to kind of acknowledge it once when you're starting the relationship. Like, even though we both have the intention of being this way, we can fall back on old patterns, or one side may just, their perceptions of what a lawyer is kind of come back and cloud their eyes, and you kind of have to constantly remind them that you're different. So those are the two stories I wanted to share.
Well, we have just a couple of minutes that we can wrap up, and people can say anything else they want to.
Yes.
Anna.
Yes, I just want to add that when someone asks me if I'm a collaborative lawyer, for example, I just want to share with you all. I say that I'm a lawyer. I like to be a lawyer. I can be collaborative, but in the broad sense, as I can also be working on a traditional litigation case, because my values will be the same in any circumstances, adapted to the nature of the methodologies, or as the traditional methodology or the alternative methodologies I will be dealing with. But I don't like to deny who I've been as a professional during these years. I'm very proud of my history as a litigation lawyer. I never did anything wrong in my perspective. I worked hard, I was ethic, and nowadays I have more tools. I'm able to open my mind and to face different methodologies and to think differently, but I don't like to put me in a box. That's why despite the fact that I'm trying to stimulate collaborative and mediation, I like to present myself as a lawyer. I don't know if because I think it is still a good thing. I like being a lawyer. I'm proud to be a lawyer, and I'm glad I having this experience to open my mind as a professional. Thank you.
Or Saswati, do you have anything that you want to add before we close?
No, I just want to say it's very inspiring, especially the fact that when I would like to pick up something from the last speaker. I'm not too sure how to pronounce her name because the screen says Anna Luisa. Apologies for my Indian accent. But I think I would like to pick up this thing that when we say that I want to become a lawyer from an aspirational point of view, or when we say that I am a lawyer, I think it goes on to, build more confidence and narrows down our scope of work, wherein we don't look at irrelevant things. Like most of the time what happens is, because I'm sure all of us like to read a lot, we tend to read a lot of things. And and of course, law is a subject wherein we have to be creative and we have to be, give our own interpretations and give our own reasoning, of course, which has to be legal because we are lawyers. Coming back to reading a lot of books, it opens up our mind, but then we also tend to get, a bit distracted. I think it's making it as more representative on behalf of others. I would like to say I instead of we. So I like to read a lot of books. So it's not just limited to legal books, it goes on to other non-legal books as well. So at times what happens is when we are giving advice to someone, it is not all the time limited to law, legal advice. It also turns out to be life advice and other, normal interactions which are not necessarily legal. I think that kind of gives an impression to the other person that, okay, fine, maybe that other person is not a lawyer. So a friend of mine comes and tells me, sometimes I wonder if you are reading psychology, which is the fact that he's not wrong, because there is a subject of victimology, which is a part of law. There are these certain subsets in legal profession, and there is that stereotypical image that we have of lawyers, and there are a lot of other things that goes inside a lawyer's head, which one cannot explain it to a friend who brands the other person as psychologist instead of a lawyer. And if I get into a debate with that person, it becomes very difficult, to convince the other person are lawyers also psychologists? Or are lawyers also consultants? I mean, there is that terminology as well, because right now we have started using social media, and there have been a lot of new kind of terminologies. Like, for example, attorney of law is different than a barrister. Barrister is different from, I don't know, a lawyer. So yeah, yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my end.
Thank you. I think you might enjoy some of our other programs, because we are pushing the idea of what is a lawyer. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about creativity, and we have people who are coming who are doing comic contracts and legal design. So very much outside the box of what law school teaches us as lawyers. And thank you all so much. They're starting the next session, so we have to go. Really appreciate the conversation, and I hope to see you again.